I am Michael Killen. My guest is going to help us gain some new insights into how California is going to change its climate change strategy. He's going to give us some insights on 3 major developments, and they are autonomous vehicles, mobile vehicles, and electric vehicles. He's going to give us some insights into new developments in corporations with respect to sustainability. He's going to give us some insights now, but he's going to give us many, many, many more on June 21 at the Silicon Valley Energy Summit at Stanford. My guest is Professor Jim Sweeney, and he is a professor of
management science and engineering.
I was going to get it.
That's okay.
Jim, thank
Hi,
you.
Michael. Thank you for having me.
It is always a pleasure. And I want to say this must be about the 7th year in a row I will, in effect, be a sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely. You're helping people ahead of time understand what we're going to be doing at the Silicon Valley Energy Summit. Very important service for us.
But I would like to share some of the benefits I have gotten out of being at 7 of your events in a row. I have met people who have been important to me, people from the state who have grabbed my products, which are art paintings that share messages, and they have installed them in the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. I have gotten invitations from the Governor's Office to put my work up on the Governor's wall. I have met so many important people who are doing important things that it has been an extremely worthwhile investment for me to, in effect, have an exhibit at your event.
I'm so glad, because I view, I think the Silicon Valley Energy Summit is a place where we're able to talk about what's really happening coming down the road, important for us in energy, so heavily substantive. But it's one of the best networking places around for people who are in industry, corporations, academia, government, who care about changing the energy system and its effect on the climate system.
Yes. Now, we're all interested in the big political developments of our time, of this country. And I believe one of your keynote speakers is going to give us an impact of the changing political environment with respect to climate change. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, sort of. Phil Sharp. Phil Sharp, for many years, was a congressman from, I believe, Indiana. But most recently, he's been president of Resources for the Future in Washington, D.C. Very deep thinker, broad knowledge about the policy issues associated with resources, energy, and the environment. He's going to be the opening keynote, and we'll talk about the Green New Deal, not the way it's being articulated now, because the way it's being articulated now, in my opinion, is a non-starter completely. Sure. But he will talk about how ideas, big ideas like that, morph in Congress, and how big things can happen even with a massive morphing. So he will give a lot of insights for how things may change and move us in a better direction on climate.
I know you have to negotiate with a speaker, to get them to agree, etc. Would he address a topic like this? What is the impact of climate change? And how does it compare to the solutions that we have now?
No.
He's not
That-
going to touch that one.
He's gonna start assuming that we know that climate change is real and it's important and it's significant. What he's going to be talking about is the Green New Deal, which we have AOC and other people discussing. How that idea that actually can't happen the way it's described now. It's
Sure.
almost impossible. Can morph into ideas that become possible that in Washington, D.C. So we'll get some understanding of the political processes and changing possible legislation and policy in D.C.
Yeah, we'll get a reality.
We'll get what we think reality may be over time.
And it'll help us see or think we see the future a bit, which will affect how we change our plans.
You bet, because the climate change and energy regulation come in two directions. The most important things over time have bubbled up from the bottom, from the states, and you see it happening in California and other states. But then you need a reaction at the top level, the federal government. And so when we get real change in the energy and the environment space is when those ultimately start working together. And that's what he'll be talking about, how these might ultimately start working together.
So he's your opening keynote speaker. And,
Yes.
And now I noticed you have a woman in the afternoon closing the event as another keynote speaker.
Yes.
That's Kate Gordon.
Kate Gordon is the director of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research under Governor Newsom, new director, appointed by Governor Newsom. And that's the office where the big plans and policies of the governor from which they emanate. And I don't know what she'll say because she's not been in office for very long because Governor Newsom's not been in office very long. But by June, she will have something very interesting to say about what's happening in the governor's office.
But you have been around for quite a while and have a lot of knowledge. You know, the governor's plan has 6 goals. And you probably like some of them, some of them might be confusing, I don't know. But do you anticipate she's going to make changes to the goals?
I expect that there's going to be a continuation of movement towards California continuing to be a leader in climate and energy and clean energy and new energy. Whether they change the tactics or the specific approaches is something I'm looking forward to see because it has an effect on where the state moves, but it has an effect on all the corporations down here and all the people, the things that they have in mind. So I have no idea. And this is a time where we'll get some significant clues on the thinking of the current governor and the administration. I hope.
Yeah, I would imagine by June 21, and she's new, but on the other hand, she wants to have a positive impact and come off well and help us all. So I think we'll see a lot of changes.
And she's a very good, dynamic person, and so she will be superb in that office, and she'll be a superb communicator to the for the event.
A lot of people, including investors, employees, are concerned with the bankruptcy of PG&E. And you're going to have somebody who's going to address that topic?
We'll have one session that's directly related to it, looking at the implications of the PG&E bankruptcy. Now, the reality of what ultimately happens is in the hands of the bankruptcy judge. But it's also in the hands of a lot of people who will intervene, a lot of people who are creditors who want to get funds back, a lot of people whose homes burned down. And so we'll have two really good people talking about that. One, Mike Florio, who's a former attorney at Turn and has been a public utilities commissioner. Because he's no longer a commissioner, he can talk and speculate about. And Frank Lind, who's used to be a vice president of PG&E, was the chief counsel for the Public Utilities Commission. So they will give thoughts on what the implications are going to be for all of us. But of course, nobody quite knows what's going to happen. This is the second time PG&E has gone through the bankruptcy. The first one was a very simple bankruptcy. It was during the California crisis. They were being forced to buy electricity at a much higher price they can sell it for. They ultimately were going to be compensated for that. So it was a temporary event. This one's different. Those wildfires were massive during the last couple of years. And California has a strict liability law that says that if the utilities equipment starts a fire, the utility is strictly liable for all the consequences of that fire, even if they've been operating prudently in doing that. This is not a transient issue. This is a big issue. So this bankruptcy is going to be complicated. We'll have a panel talking about that.
Even though it's the administrator of the bankruptcy that calls a lot of shots, and I guess the PUC, whatever, but will we learn possibly some signs for a breakup of PG&E? Would it be geographic? Would it be line of business? And if it's line of business, you know, there's a lot of forward thinkers who know gas does not have that great of a future.
There are many speculations as to what may happen, whether it will be broken up, and if so, how. There are advocates for almost every position that you can take. I don't know how this is going to evolve. Again, I'm looking for clues as to what may be happening, because what does happen is going to face us all. One thing I'll tell you, we all want electricity.
Oh, yes.
And we all need to get it delivered, so we need a system, and how that's going to be evolved is going to be really tricky.
Okay, and I started the show by saying there's basically a confluence of ideas happening: the electric car, the autonomous car, and what was my other one I had?
Mobility as a service.
Yes.
Think Uber or Lyft or equivalent companies.
Now, this is extremely complex, and billions and trillions will turn on this eventually, how things shake out. And so what's going to happen at your event that's going to give investors and corporations and service and utilities new insights possibly on how things may shake out?
Well, we're going to talk about, we'll have a panel on the integration of those three. This is one where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Think of a future in which you have autonomous vehicles, all electric, and you don't own the car because you have a service like Uber or Lyft or any of the other companies that may enter this space. And so when you call a car, it arrives, but there's no driver. There's no driver. There's one consequence is you're not paying the labor cost of a driver. You're just paying the cost, the capital cost of equipment of the individuals. So one speculation is that for most people, it's not going to be worth buying a car. Auto industry, and if that's the case, are going to be marketing to an entirely different group of customers, not individuals. They're going to be selling it to the Ubers and the Lyfts of this world and other equivalent companies that are providing these mobility as a service using autonomous vehicles that are all electrified. It's going to be a revolution in transportation, and it's going to affect how cities are structured, a whole urban transportation system, how we invest money in automobiles, how companies invest in their products. The implications are going to be startling across the board.
In terms of suppliers, I think you mentioned primarily automobile providers like the Lyft, Uber. But what about Bank of America? What about Intel? What about other corporations? Do you envision that they will buy a fleet of autonomous vehicles, and these vehicles will be used as sort of ride sharing and picking up the employees and taking them home? Do you see that?
That's a possibility, and these companies are going to be making economic trade-offs. Do they buy the fleet and maintain and manage it, or they contract out with a company? I'm used to saying the word Uber and Lyft, but if this space starts evolving as dramatically as it might, there's going to be room for a lot of new startups and there's new companies doing it with specialized services and specialized working with various corporations here. So the companies are going to have to be rethinking that overall strategy.
What about the utilities? How must they start to think when they have to help provide the electricity for the electric cars, for the autonomous cars, and for the mobile? And not only provide the electricity, they have to provide the information technology to manage all these things.
And at the same time, one of them's in bankruptcy and other ones are in very risky situations now. So having the utilities play this role is going to be challenging. We realize also that at least on the peninsula and many parts of the state, the retail customers are no longer retail customers of utility. We have the community choice aggregators like Silicon Valley Power and Peninsula Clean Energy and the city of San Jose. All of these are the interface with the customers of the utilities. So for utilities, this is a extremely challenging time. Big things are happening that need utilities. They're financially challenged because of the risk of wildfires, and they're losing their customers.
Yeah. Community choice. Is that all about customers who want more clean energy than they can get from, let's say, a PG&E or a Con Ed or a Florida Power and Light? Is that what's driving it? The desire to be a good citizen, protect the planet, and get more supposedly clean energy? That's
one of the two. The other two is local control. The Silicon Valley, these clean community choice aggregators are generally joint powers agencies run by a group of cities or counties, and that can be much more responsive at the local level, at least in the minds of many people, than a large corporation. So that you have those two things that create a competition for customers for utilities. We have those, I shouldn't say traditionally, because these aren't traditional organizations. They're really new over the last few years. Now they're starting innovative programs that will be doing some of the things that we traditionally thought only the utilities can do. Now those are going to be devolving to the community choice aggregators. And we have a panel that has the CEOs of the Peninsula Clean Energy and Silicon Valley Clean Energy, as well as the director of San Jose's community power program. And they've all going to be bringing some very innovative programs. some of which have not been announced, and I'm not even aware of the whole suite. But here we're going to start hearing what during the event, we're going to hear about what some of those programs are going to be, what some of the ideas are, what we can get and benefit from them, and be able to weigh in a little bit in what we think maybe they should be doing over time. Again, very, very exciting changes happening.
Okay, I'm not sure I can summarize. We're not near the end yet. Summarize what's going to happen there. You're going to have a high-powered thinker from Washington, D.C., give us a new objective view of how politics are changing with respect to dealing with climate change. You're going to have the head of the Governor's Office of Research and Planning, and that is the center for climate change policies in the state. You're going to have a group of speakers who are going to address the bankruptcy and what business opportunities or impacts it's going to have for us. You're going to have a session that tries to develop clear thinking on the automobile industry with the mobile folks, the autonomous folks, and the electric folks. Have I forgotten any that we mentioned? But then I want to go to other things.
Those are key things, but that's not all, as they say in the advertisement. But wait, there is more.
I believe you're going to have executives or sustainability managers or from 3 different corporations. And I think, am I correct, your panel is going to, these are all more erudite folks who are looking at the future, and you're going to be quizzing them, or they're going to be speaking on how their corporations are going to change to be more sustainable? No?
Actually, it's going to be what they've already been doing. There's been a number of the major corporations. You know the names of the ones we have in mind. Because not all of them have agreed yet, I can't say which ones, but you'll recognize the names, who made commitments to sustainability internal in their corporation. And those commitments have been resulting in actions that have already been taken, commitments and actions moving forward. And those involve changes in corporate culture. Those involve energy efficiency. Those involve commitments to clean energy, as well as water commitments in many cases. So we're going to have a panel of people from 3 corporations talking about what they're doing and how they did it and how they came to these decisions and what the future may be. And so this is at the heavy-duty corporate level here, who are making changes towards sustainability right here in Silicon Valley.
So it's pragmatic solutions and discussions that relate to things that we are involved with: transportation, buildings where we live, the source of energy, this gigantic thing called climate change, which is sweeping toward us. So it's quite a broad, meaningful event.
It is, and I truly view this as the Silicon Valley Energy Summit. We're going to have some of the big, most important issues that will actually affect us all. And you stated it very correctly. It's not just what will happen to the utilities. It will be what will happen to everybody who uses electricity or has personal mobility for themselves, people who are playing major role in corporations who want to be part of what's really happening in the future. And it's going to be all wrapped in terms of the big policy changes that are happening from the governor's office in California and from the federal government.
Your event, again, will be in the Arriaga Alumni Conference Center. Really?
Yes.
It's a beautiful facility.
We take over the whole Arriaga Alumni Center at Stanford for the day.
And how many people are you conceded in?
We will have to shut off registration at 400, maybe 405 because of the fire laws. And
Okay.
so we anticipate at some time we'll have to pull the plug.
If somebody wants more information, what's the URL? Do you have it?
Yes, think of the abbreviation Silicon Valley Energy Summit. So it is sves.stanford.edu. Silicon Valley Energy Summit, sves.stanford.edu. We've got the preliminary program up down with a lot of names off there because there's some negotiations still going on with individuals, and that will evolve those names. The registration is open, and we see people are registering already. It's moving.
Have we already discussed the most important segments of this event? Have we got them all?
Oh, they're all important, but you didn't talk about the debate.
Oh, tell me about the debate.
Every year we have a in-your-face debate. We get two articulate people on each side of some topic, and that's totally in your face. And this is the benefits of high-speed rail.
Oh,
will make it worthwhile to California to invest in high-speed rail.
Wonderful.
We know Dan Richards, who used to be the head of the authority, will be one of the speakers. We're working on the rest, but that will be a Oxford-style debate in your face.
Well, high-speed rail is important. I'd be very interested in that. That's good. I have a feeling from where you've addressed all the big but now I'm insulted. Not often does a guest insult me. You forgot that I am presenting.
Michael, I sure didn't forget, but there's a principle. It's called save the best for last.
Oh, you're so kind. Can we have the photo of the 15-foot-long, 6-foot painting that will be in the lobby during the event? And it is a painting of Stanford's $500 million investment in a new energy system. And I have a feeling my team is having trouble coming up with, oh, it's up. It's up. The painting is up, although I cannot see it. But this will greet everyone, and this is a painting that also brings attention to the district energy market. My guest has been Jim Sweeney. He is a professor, and he's also the producer of the Silicon Valley Energy Summit, June 21. I hope to see you there. If you're there, come also say hello to me. I'd love to meet you. Jim.
Michael, thank you. Always a pleasure to talk with you for these, and always a pleasure.